right, well, looks like our epoxy is taking a little bit longer to get here than we anticipated. So I've already sanded and prepped the floors. So whenever the epoxy actually gets here, we can just go ahead and start applying that. So while we're waiting on the epoxy to get here, we're going to finish up working on the fence, just because we really want to keep the donkeys and the cows out of here. They're kind of a nuisance. And also an added benefit is to keep the bear in. And action.
Okay. So just to give you guys an idea of how big our fence line is going to be, it starts all the way down there on this west side next to the pond, goes all the way down to the pond. But yeah, we plan on planting a few trees over here on this west side just to help shade the house, because that western sun, when it's going down, is pretty brutal. So definitely plan on that. But then the fence wraps up and around. It's just the two. So the fence will take a turn right here. It'll go well in front of the solar panels, so there won't be any shade from the fence on the panels, obviously. Okay, continuing east.
I listen when she talks, I watch her when she walks. She's giving me these feelings that I've never.
Then the fence will roughly go to this area where we'll head down back to the pond, and this will just allow us enough space to, you know, keep the cows and donkeys out and have more than enough room for future projects. And doing it this way, we'll still have access to the pond. Bear will get to go swimming whenever he would like. And also the snake pit, where we've had very traumatic experiences, will also be fenced in our little area, so we'll get to enjoy that. So we'll have the house over there, the barn, and eventually we want to have a huge garden over here that Bear can pee all over.
No, we'll fence it off from Bear.
Why are the tomatoes dying?
Never know, na, na. Never know, na, na. She'll never know.
I'm always just a little bit more on edge when we're over here, okay? And the fence line, we're gonna have to go into the water a little bit, because like the big bull will just go in the water and walk right around it. So he can get branches or whatever he wants. So we'll definitely have to go out a little ways, which will be interesting trying to do. So let's get going, because we may have some rain coming our way and we don't want to get rained out. You're hitting rock?
Yeah, there's a lot of iron on the property, and I don't even know what this is, what kind of rock this is. There's been a few posts where I just hit like a layer. It'll be like 3, maybe 4 inches deep, and then after that, it's soft ground again. But this stuff is not fun.
He contemplated getting a jackhammer.
Yeah, I thought I was going to have to, but luckily it's only a few inches deep, and then it clears up again.
Bear, the rain's coming.
Hopefully I can at least get this one in.
Oh, it's time to go.
Oh crap.
Schnitzel! Come on, Bear. I like how you say, hope I can get this one in, and then torrential downpour.
our custom tamper pipe. Some random pipe we found laying out in the field one day.
Spencer says that when he's older, he's gonna use it as a cane.
It's multifunctional.
Today is a very exciting day, guys, because our epoxy came in last night. So you know what that means. Today, we're gonna get the floors done.
Better knock on something.
So now that we got our new epoxy in, we're all ready to fix our mess up on the floors. So what we're gonna do is the area that we've already laid a layer of epoxy on, we're just gonna go ahead, lightly sand it, clean it with acetone, and then we'll be all ready for the next layer of epoxy. But yeah, this has probably been our biggest mess up yet. I mean, we've messed up a lot of stuff, and I'd say by far, this has been the worst.
Just wait until we start laying this next thing of epoxy. It's going to be our even bigger mess up.
No, don't say that. I'm sorry, buddy. You gotta wait out there, okay? I love you. So everything started off very well last night, but then when we got on our very last batch on our second container, we actually started to have the same issue that we had last week.
All hell broke loose. The epoxy, I guess the ambient temperature was too hot in here and whatnot. It just started curing really fast. I would say within probably 15 minutes or so. We went to pour a little bit out towards the far end of the container, and it just was globbing at that point. And when I say globbing, it was globbing.
Yeah, it's supposed to have like a 35-minute work time, and being that it's just so hot in here, we're suspecting that that's why it started to harden so quickly. But again, didn't notice it until we had a huge glob on the floor. So if you think the living room looked bad before, this one's like at least 4 times the size, right in front of like our back door / guest bathroom.
Yeah, so after we got the whole globbing effect, we immediately stopped. I mean, I tried to smear just a little bit, see if it would, and yeah, no, it was just it was a mess. So we stopped. We were kind of disappointed, but we're like, it's fine. We'll just have to sand that area down, and we'll finish that little corner off tomorrow or in a couple days. Mm-hmm. Well, we come out here the next day, today, and we were less than thrilled about the overall floors.
Yeah, not just that area that we messed up in, but the entire floor. I mean, it doesn't look great. we're having a lot of issues with the epoxy. The first thing that we have noticed is, we started off just using a paintbrush, and the paintbrush probably works better for us than a squeegee, but
Problem was work time. We couldn't
work fast enough.
Yeah.
So we got a squeegee, and everything seemed to be going really well, but the squeegee started creating a lot of issues for us. I mean, every single time Spencer would do the squeegee, it would create air bubbles.
Well, the reason why it would create air bubbles is because you would first we'd have to pour it out because we'd have to stand in the center section. We'd pour it out, and then I would squeegee it out, and then squeegee it back and forth to try to get it into cracks and crevices and whatnot. And in the process, it would create these tiny air bubbles within the epoxy. Well, you can fix a lot of those air bubbles if you take a heat gun and heat up the air bubbles. It's not always guaranteed, but some of these air bubbles were on the other side of the container, and there's no way to get to those air bubbles.
Yeah, yeah, the floor is wet, so we're having to stand in the center section. So Spencer is, he's tall, but he's not that long. So he's standing there with the squeegee, trying to get as far as he can.
I could reach the other side, but it's like I'm really out there reaching. It's not like getting full pressure against the far end. So
yeah, and then the squeegee ends up making a line. Like if you've ever done the squeegees at a gas station on your windows, how it ends up making a line, and I know you can eventually get rid of them, but doing it on a floor where you can't reach all the spots, it's pretty much impossible. So now we have lines in some spots on our floors. We have tons of bubbles that were impossible to reach, and it just doesn't look good.
And when we say bubbles, we mean like tiny little air pockets.
Yeah.
And there's just a bunch of them. So it doesn't look like an air bubble unless you look up close. It looks mostly just kind of foggy is what it looks like.
Oh yeah. So in certain areas, the bubbles really accumulated, and it created a discoloration in the floor. So it looks like some areas of the floor look white.
Another problem was the epoxy caused the wood in some areas to splinter up.
Yeah, when we had first started the whole floor process, we had decided that we wanted to just do minimal maintenance to them. We wanted them to have the rough, natural look.
We want them to be all natural.
Swing those sweet cherries.
So the epoxy, when it was curing, in some areas caused the wood to splinter up. I don't know if it's just some areas cured faster than others and caused the splitting. I don't know what the exact cause of that. Well, I found out the hard way that we had the splintering up. I ripped a hole in my sock in one area, and then another area got the other sock. So
yeah,
double holes on a brand new pair of socks.
Yes. We figured it wouldn't be perfect and we'd have to go around and fix maybe a few spots, but the number of spots that we would have to fix is just absolutely outrageous.
It's pretty much just start over.
Yeah, you'd have to go through sand pretty much everything and retry it, not knowing what your outcome would be. I mean, we've done this 2 times now. The first time we had a mess up, the second time we had a colossal mess up. So the third time I'm not really feeling too hopeful about.
So the overall quality of the floors, it's not quite up to our standards. Some areas came out okay, other areas it's just a big kind of a disappointment. So this was supposed to be an art piece, just a cool factor, but honestly what it would end up being is just like strategically trying to hide some areas, and we don't want that. We just want the overall house to just look awesome.
Yeah. So pretty much what we're trying to say is the floors look like
Yeah.
So all that being said, we've decided that we're going to be covering up the floors. I can't believe I'm saying that.
I know, I can't either. But I think it's just better to cut our losses here instead of spending another 2 weeks on working on these floors and wasting your guys' time.
Yeah, and our money.
In our money. We're just going to cut our losses. And we're glad we did it because it encapsulated any of the pesticides.
Oh yeah.
And anything else that might have been spilled. But other than that, we're just going to cut our losses.
Yeah, even if we had originally intended to just cover up the floors and do all that, we still would have done an epoxy coating just to seal them. So we still would have done it, but still, this whole process has been quite the headache. It has been by far our biggest mess up on the entire house so far, and we're very disappointed. We really wanted to keep the floors.
I'm just happy to move on. This is
Yeah.
kind of been heartbreak after heartbreak, and I don't want to break my heart 3 times.
Better be nice to me.
Oh my God.
So at this point, we're just gonna move on. It's not a big deal, and we're just gonna go ahead and start on our next project, which is going to be framing the walls.
Stay tuned and see how bad we f***ed that up.
I don't know. I can't like see myself. I don't know what I look like.
You look pretty.
All right.
Scared.
Everyone's probably like, I don't want to see the bottom of his foot. In case you were wondering what the hole in his sock looked like, because I'm sure everyone cares.
So, in our last video, we talked about how we wanted to keep our floors. This video, we're talking about how we want to cover them up.
Please listen to it when Bear walks. Go ahead, buddy.
It's like a squeak.
You would not be able to be very sneaky, Bear.